from totalwellnesshealthcoaching.com. So this week I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of just showing you kind of one recipe start to finish, I'm going to do what we eat in a week video. So just a little preamble, because you know I got to talk to you a little bit. For this particular week, it is summer, and my teenagers are working at a summer camp, and so it's just my husband and I this week for dinners. I'm still cooking about the same amount of food, I would say, because my husband will eat leftovers for lunch, and then I'll take a night where I'll make just something a little smaller, which you will see. So I have had COVID. It has been, goodness, I think I'm starting my third week of it now. I feel way, way, way better, but I still have this kind of stuffy sounding voice. I did lose my taste and smell for a good week and a half. So I published a post for you actually just today. Today is June the 6th, it's a Monday. And so in case you didn't know, maybe you just know me here from YouTube land, but I do have a website. I've had a blog for a number of years and just kind of needed to streamline my life a little bit. And so I combined the blog with my business website. So I am a functional medicine health coach, and that business is totalwellnesshealthcoaching.com, Total Wellness Health Coaching. And so I just added the blog aspect to my business website. So if you want to find me on the internet, where I post every Monday, I think I didn't even miss a week because I have things scheduled up. But you know, sometimes I get sick or things get in the way. But I intend to post every Monday. Sorry, I'm struggling. It's either a recipe or it's a something functional medicine related. Like most recently, it was about stress, how to manage stress. And then today, I actually published a post, what I cooked when I had COVID, because number one, I couldn't taste anything, so it made it really hard to cook. It's a really strange feeling to not be able to taste and think, okay, this needs some salt, this needs pepper. So it was what I cooked when I was sick. I was needing to heal. My husband was sick. The kids were mildly sick, so they were mostly fine. It was just the two of us. So needing to get nutrition in our bodies, but one, not having a ton of energy, and absolutely zero desire to eat. So hopefully you'll find that helpful. Go check that out. totalwellnesshealthcoaching.com is where you'll find that information. It's also where you'll find my recipes. So because I couldn't just transition everything over from my old blog to the new website, I'm just slowly getting recipes up there. Old favorites, I've gone ahead and put a bunch of those up. But you know, as I talk about something on these videos and I think, oh, you know, that's a really old recipe, I need to write it up for the new website, I will. I'll be getting those up for you, but you know, just a little bit at a time. So anyway, what I'm going to show you this week is just a what we eat in a week video. It won't be the full recipe. It'll just be a little snippet. This is kind of a new style for us, so bear with us as we work out the editing to try to make it informative, entertaining, and hopefully just give you lots of ideas. I know, you know, when I sit down weekly to make my meal plan, I'm sure you're doing the same thing, right? You're making your weekly meal plan. Sometimes I struggle with what to make, and I'm always looking at cookbooks and recipe magazines and that sort of thing for inspiration, because I'm trying to create new recipes for all of you, but I just run out of ideas sometimes. I sit down and look at my calendar and think, how in the world am I going to cook this week? So I'm hoping that you find this real quick style helpful. And so I'm working on tonight's dinner, obviously, while I'm talking to you, since this is a very boring thing to do. But tonight we're having a new recipe I'm working on called smothered pork chops, which should be peppers, onions, mushrooms. I have a whopping 3 mushrooms. Ideally it would be more, but that's what I have. So smothered pork chops. mashed potatoes, and squash. So featuring prominently in this week's meal plan is going to be squash, yellow crookneck squash, and some regular old green zucchini, because that is what is coming on in the garden. And in a couple weeks, it's going to be tomatoes. And we've actually had one little cucumber, so cucumbers are starting, peppers will be starting, but squash are always the first thing that we have ready, and it is squash season. So if you live anywhere near me, you may be finding some squash on your front porch. So that's tonight, and I'm going to stop talking. You can always leave questions down in the description box. As I get this pork chop recipe finished, I will write it up for you, but it's just an experiment tonight for the first time. So it will be a few weeks before I get it up for you. These are just some potatoes that have been in the fridge for a while. Let me tell you what's coming on the blog, and then I'll stop talking. We just were at Disney World for a couple weeks. We went to celebrate my 20th wedding anniversary, and that is where we got sick, but it's okay. It was still a great vacation, and so I'm busy writing up for you now what we ate when we were there, because one of the great things about Disney is that they do allergy food really, really well. Now when we travel, as I've said before, we really just stick to gluten-free. Although we really did a lot of dairy-free on this trip as well, not on purpose, it just, in the foods that we chose, happened to also be dairy-free. So I'm writing up for you, there'll be two separate posts. One will be what they call quick service restaurants, which are like the fast food type places. And then I'll do a separate post for our sit-down restaurants. The food was excellent. The food did not make us sick. It was special. And I'm hoping that if you have such a trip planned, that will be helpful for you. So be on the lookout for that. This is my new little friend Remy. If you've seen the movie Ratatouille, one of my kids' favorite Disney animated movies. And there's a new Remy's Ratatouille Adventure ride at Epcot, which is fabulous. It has a little magnet thing, so he'll sit on your shoulder. But they wanted me to have him to help me cook. So Remy is my new sous chef, and so you will be seeing him around in my kitchen. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this format of what we eat in a week. Let me know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see. As I said, I'm always looking for inspiration, for ideas, and so if you throw out an idea to me, a recipe you want remade over, or some type of content you'd like to see, I would love to hear that, because I want to bring you what you want. All right, I'm going to get on with my smothered pork chops, mashed potatoes, and squash. I hope you enjoy. Just seasoning up my pork chops, getting ready to give those a quick browning in my skillet. About half avocado oil and half butter. The goal here is to get those pork chops browned and then pull them out and then add the veggies. So I'm just going to season real simply with some salt and black pepper. Kind of all-purpose. What my grandma taught me was a little bit of garlic, a little bit of paprika. Goes a long way in seasoning something like this. You can use some all-purpose seasoning if you like, but I prefer to kind of add in my own so that I can control the quality of the ingredients. Got some boneless pork chops. I'm going to trim off this little bit of fat just because that will make it a more pleasant eating experience to not have to eat around that. These are obviously boneless. If you had the bone in, you'd get a little bit more flavor. But this is just what I had in the freezer. I bought some meat on sale one time and did not have a need for it, so just stashed it away. It just was a good deal. We'll save this flour because I'll use it for making the gravy. My kids are home, I would probably cut these onions in a little bit smaller pieces to hide them a little bit better. But since they're not here, I like the look of these pretty half circles. So we got a small sweet onion. All right, so for dinner tonight, we're having pizza. Just because the kids aren't here doesn't mean we can't eat like teenagers. I was just going to do Costco pizza, kind of fancy it up like I normally do with some meat, veggies, and stuff. But I remembered, gosh, back around Thanksgiving, I talked to you about this Mom's Place, gluten-free, that was kind of new to me. And I ordered a ton of stuff, just different things to try. And I was going through my pantry and I saw that I had this pizza crust mix. So I thought, you know what, I have time. Let me try this tonight. So just like all of their mixes, I have found pretty clear instructions on the back. Yes, this is going to be more complicated than my Costco pizza, but I think we can figure it out. So it comes with a yeast packet, so we want to activate the yeast. We need to add a little bit of sugar, some more milk, some eggs, and some oil. So this is a yeast crust, and we'll let it sit in a warm place to rise for a little bit, and then I'll make my toppings and stuff. So doesn't seem super complicated, and I'm looking forward to trying this one. We'll see if it's like the ideal pizza crust, right, would be kind of thin, but like a little bit chewy. This is for me. Like a little bit chewy to crispy, but not soggy. So we'll see how this one is. So I'm going to veer off from the instructions just a little bit to try to simplify. I've done this with a couple of these Mom's Place gluten-free instructions, and it's worked completely fine. So they're telling me to mix this in a stand mixer, but I don't want to get out my stand mixer for that. I can just mix it in a bowl. It's not a problem. It's not like we're developing gluten, right? It's gluten-free, so you're just really wanting to mix it well. And I can do that with my muscles, get a little bit of a workout. I use my fork to mix it as thoroughly as possible, and then I need to switch to my spatula. But then also they said to grease my pan, to put oil on my pan that I'm going to bake my pizza on, and then to get some other gluten-free flour and flour my counter or my board or parchment paper or whatever, and roll out the dough. And and then transfer the dough to your pan. That is, in my opinion, just a silly extra step. So I am just mixing this up. I'm going to spread around that olive oil on my pan, and I'm just going to kind of work out the dough into the shape and size that I want on that pan, and then let it rise. Jelly roll pan, just obviously very liberally greasing it with the olive oil, and then I'll have that on my hands as well to help spread. I think if you just had a standard round pizza pan, they're usually like a 12 inch, you would end up with a very thick crust. And so if that's what your family likes, go for that. We tend to like a thinner crust, less crust, more toppings. And so I had a suspicion that using this jelly roll pan would work well, and get us about the thickness of the crust that we typically like. And I think I was correct. There's plenty of extra olive oil here on the pan. I'm kind of squeezing it out the side, and letting that kind of come to rest on top of my crust, which I think will give it a yummy flavor and texture. Yeah, no problem getting that to the size of this jelly roll pan. I think that's going to yield kind of the thickness that we like. So I have found that for my body handling dairy, I'm okay with it, but certain dairy is better than others. And my body does not enjoy mozzarella cheese all that much. But pepper jack, or Monterey Jack, this just happens to be pepper jack, which we like that flavor with our pizza. Monterey Jack is a kind of cheddar, so it's more aged, but yet it really yields very similar result as mozzarella on pizza. And so when I make pizza at home, I just always use a jack cheese instead of mozzarella for myself. Sometimes I'll get mozzarella for the kids. Sometimes it's hard to find Monterey Jack. But when I can find it, that's what I use. Okay, so the instructions said 15 to 20 minutes at 400 on the bottom rack, and I checked it at about 10 minutes, and it was getting really brown around the edges, which means it's getting brown on the bottom. So I moved it up just a little bit higher, and I took it out at, my timer actually hasn't gone off, 14 minutes. So they said 15 to 20 minutes, and then put your toppings on. I generally like to put some cheese and toppings on below the sauce or any kind of veggie toppings to keep the crust from getting soggy. This is my crust. It's this organic 365 from Whole Foods. Really like the flavor of it. I know you're probably tired of hearing me say this upsets my stomach, but you know, we're talking digestive diseases, functional medicine stuff. A lot of pizza sauces upset my stomach. As far as a Whole Foods product goes, it's very inexpensive. Right, I don't have quite as much as I would want, so I could add some pasta sauce or plain tomato sauce, tomato paste. But I think I'm just going to spread and make this work. If you have some basic tomato products in your cupboard, you can make pizza sauce. You can use tomato paste and dilute it with water or broth. You can use any kind of canned tomatoes, tomato sauce, that sort of thing. And then add a little salt, pepper, oregano, basil, garlic, that sort of thing. Normally I do a lot of veggies and different toppings, but we're just having salad and watermelon for our sides tonight. So I was just trying to be a little bit easy with the toppings. You see all myself. So you saw me cook that sausage. It was just a half a pound, which I could have actually used the full pound. And cheese. You saw the cheese. This is especially salty pepperoni. So I won't put any salt on top like I sometimes do, but I am going to add some spices. Actually, this is my favorite. This is Primal Palate's Superhero blend. It's their Greek seasoning, but it has garlic, oregano, marjoram. It does have a little salt and pepper in it. It's just so good, and it's already blended together. If you have Italian seasoning, that sort of thing would be fine. Or separate oregano and basil. Alright, so we'll try about 8 minutes. When you remember and love your teenagers, even though they're not home, they love to just put the serving spoons away with the food. Let's see if I can get away with watermelon as dessert tonight for the hubby, who loves dessert and admittedly has gotten me in the habit of enjoying dessert too, but we don't need it every night. We got to get out of that habit. So we have this little bit of watermelon left in the fridge, which will actually make perfect dessert. Ooh, pizza. Okay, so the instructions said 400 for 15 to 20 minutes, put your toppings on, and then I think 10 to 15 minutes more, let me check. 5 to 10 minutes more. And I ended up doing 14 before toppings and then exactly 10 after toppings. Let's take a look at this pizza. It's just out of the oven, so I know it was super hot. Actually, let me talk about the salad first. So, you know, with the Thrive Market, I talked to you about buying sauces and salad dressings and stuff, but I make almost all of our salad dressings homemade. And tonight, I felt like Thousand Island, so it was some avocado oil mayonnaise, ketchup, zucchini relish, which is a homemade relish that I make, but you could use any kind of sweet pickle relish, and a little bit of maple syrup. And we have this delicious homemade Thousand Island. Okay, this pizza, let's look at this crust. I think it's going to be one of those pizza crusts that's a little bit cakey, for lack of a better word. Like it has some crunchiness to it, but also has a softness. Like here, you know, I'm going to be able to pick it up, which is nice. Crispy on the bottom. But that sort of internal texture is more like a bread than a chewy pizza crust, if that makes sense. I've made a lot of pizza crusts, homemade. I have lots of those recipes on my old website that I could transfer over. But if you want to use a mix, this one seems good, and we'll give it the old taste test. Yes, I'm cutting this with scissors and my spatula because using my pizza cutter would scratch my pan. It's good. To me, pizza is the toppings, not so much the crust. So if you have a crust that stays together, holds up, you can pick it up with your hands if that's important to you, then I think that's a win. Is this the best pizza crust I've ever had? No, but it's perfectly good. It's good. It's good. And it was easy to make, and it's like $4 or $5 for that mix. It makes obviously a large pizza. So definitely can recommend the Mom's Place gluten-free if you want a sort of semi-homemade pizza. All right, that's dinner day number 2. Come back tomorrow and see what we have Wednesday night. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Wednesday now. What we eat in a week. What I'm doing here is putting some apple cider vinegar in my water. I'm still recovering from COVID. That's why I sound like this. We have Remy here helping again today. And when we were at Disney, one of the things that was on my must-try food list was these macaron ice cream sandwiches in the France Pavilion at Epcot. And we never got to it because the lines were so stinking long. And I just, you know, I mean, food is special to me, but I wasn't willing to wait in line for an hour for some kind of food. Especially since it was just like a treat. So anyway, I thought I'm going to try that at home because I love ice cream sandwiches. I've thought about trying to make them paleo for years, and that's just, I've never gotten the cookie part right. But then when I saw that they had the ice cream sandwiches made with the macarons, I thought, oh, that's a great idea. It won't taste the same. It won't be the same as like, you know, those rectangular ice cream sandwiches. But it should still be delicious. But I've never made them before, so this is my first attempt. So if you know anything about macarons, I think I'm saying that correctly, you have to leave them out to form sort of a skin, and then they will get that shiny top, and it's called a foot, where it's like the top and the bottom look different. I don't really know how to describe that, but mine had been sitting out for, I was timing it, close to 2 hours now, an hour and a half. And now I think they have that skin on it and are ready to bake. So I'm going to stick these in the oven for about 14 minutes. This is somebody else's recipe, and so I'm figuring out how that works, and if it's good, then I'll adjust it for my own purposes. Okay, so for supper tonight, we're having mushroom Swiss burgers without a bun. These are these grass-fed burger patties from Costco. Each one is a little more than 1/4 pound. And it's the cheapest way to get grass-fed beef. It's like $4.49 a pound. And I'm just guessing. I'm trying to remember. There's maybe 20 patties in the package. So great, super easy, fast. I only bought 1 package of mushrooms this week, and I should have bought 2 or 3, and so I'm down to just a couple mushrooms, but it's just my husband and I, so it'll be fine. I'll grill the burgers, I'll saute the mushrooms in the skillet, and then I'm going to make my fried squash, so that's really what I'm going to show you. I just got my little skillet on about medium. I put a little, actually I poured olive oil in there, which I wouldn't normally use, but I just grabbed that one instead of the avocado. Butter would be delicious, but I'm just using the oil tonight. And I'm just going to slice these up, and I'll get them in the skillet with some salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic powder. Normally I would do my my fried squash in the oven about 425, but my macarons are needing to bake obviously at the same time, and they're baking at a really low temperature. So I'm going to do the squash in the air fryer, which from a heating up the kitchen standpoint, I would prefer to do the squash in the air fryer, but it's smaller and I want to make more, so I can use my great big baking trays if I do it in the oven. But alas, I only have the one oven, so I don't have a choice. I have to do it in my air fryer. So I want to get this started, and I'll go put my burgers in the grill. So those happen to be 2 egg yolks because I used the whites in my macarons. So normally I would do 1 whole egg and a little bit of milk in my egg wash for my squash. So these yellow crookneck squash, you have this little kind of funky part. So I just usually cut that off. About a 1/4 inch thick pieces. And then these I'll do in rounds. So the wet is egg and milk. I used almond milk. And then the dry is almond flour. And arrowroot starch. Don't worry about making too much of the breading and wasting it because you can just put it in a container, a baggie, and stick it in the fridge and pull it out and use it the next time. So about 2-to-1 almond flour to arrowroot, but it's really loose. You do not have to be super specific with this. You can put different seasonings in here if you like, but quite frankly, this fresh, homegrown squash, it's just so tasty that just salt and pepper, that's all I want, salt and pepper. Squash, I don't know why this isn't, I don't know how to explain it in a scientific way, but squash really takes up the pepper, so I tend to go a little bit light on the black pepper with squash. For some reason, it tends to like come out very spicy. I'm going to do 400. I don't think it's going to take 12 minutes. Let's do 10. You just start breading it. You want to try to keep a wet hand and a dry hand. I'll try to make like a little pile on the side of my dish. Are you gardening this year? Tell me what you're growing, where you live, and kind of how it's going. With grocery prices this year, growing something in your backyard is really economical way to go. So first batch, I'll spray the bottom, and then after that, I'll just spray the tops. I'm going to kind of pack these in because they'll shrink down. Okay, big spray of oil on top. It's avocado oil spray. And then while that's cooking, I'm going to spread the rest real quick. Alright, so here are my macarons. First try. Let's see if I can get you to see that foot, what I was talking about. Can you see, like, on the bottom where there's a little kind of ledge? It's like smooth, and then it goes to sort of a rough-looking part. That's called the foot. These aren't as puffy as I'd like, but we'll see how they turn out in the end. All right, my squash is going to be ready to turn in just a minute, so let me check on that before I take my burgers out. Yeah, they're looking good. Even when I make these in the oven, I generally flip them. You don't have to, but you'll get a more even browning if you do. To get that fried essence, I guess, you really want to make sure you get a good coat of the oil spray on, and it's going to help a lot if you flip them and spray both sides. And then also, even though I salted the flour, you want to get a little salt on there. So my oven is still hot from my macarons, and so when these squash come out, I'll put them in my warm oven. If my oven were not just already hot because it had something else in there, I would turn it on to like 275, 300, just to keep the one batch warm while I cook the other batch, because they will get cold pretty fast. me see if I can pick one of these up and show you. Oh yeah, let's see if I can give you it up close. See, it's like, they're supposed to be shiny on top, so mine aren't shiny, so I'm sure there's something I didn't do quite right. But they did get it's like a little cap, and then this little raised up part that looks a little bit jagged, that's called the foot, and that's what they're supposed to be like. So that happened. They got a little cracked, a couple of them, so I don't know if that means that they were overcooked, undercooked, I did something else wrong, but they seem edible and they smell good for my first try, so I'm happy about that. I'm going to check on these because I'm guessing, right? I put them in 400 for 10 minutes because in the oven I would do 450 for probably 20 minutes. So kind of each new thing you do in the air fryer, you just have to play around with it a little bit, the time and the temperature to get it just right. I think 400 is going to be good. And so here they are, which they look perfect. And that was not quite 10 minutes. So 9 to 10 minutes. Those look perfect. They could have gone the full minute, and that would have been fine too. I can't believe I got those 2 squash in 2 batches. This air fryer is bigger than it looks. I love this one. I'll be sure to link it down below. I haven't had another one. This is the only one I've ever had. It's Instant Pot brand, and I'm super, super happy with it. Okay, so I've got a good bit of breading left, so I'll just save that and use it next time because we will be having a lot of fried squash. You want to just spray it till it all looks wet. So I'm just going to cancel this, and then I'll turn it back on. And I'm going to taste one for seasoning. Oh, good. Yummy. They're perfect. Okay, in my mind, a mushroom Swiss burger needs Worcestershire sauce, so I'm going to grab that. There is some debate over whether or not Worcestershire sauce is acceptable on a paleo, natural, whatever kind of diet. That's 5 minutes for my burgers, so hold on a second. Liam Perrin's brand is the one that I use, and here are the ingredients. Distilled white vinegar, molasses, sugar, water, salt, onions, anchovies, garlic, cloves, tamarind extract, natural flavorings, chili pepper extract. So natural flavorings is the only thing that is questionable, but it's not gluten. It's not some weird grain. The allergy statement says contains anchovies. Some people are allergic to anchovies, but this is pretty pure ingredients. You get that Worcestershire flavor, which is very unique. You could use coconut aminos instead, but we just know that this doesn't affect our health. It's like half a teaspoon of this, maybe, that we are putting on our burgers. And so this is what I'm going to use. There are some brands that contain wheat, so definitely always read your ingredients. All right, so Wednesday night we have the homemade fried squash in the air fryer, so fried sliced apples, and mushroom Swiss burgers that I just grilled the burgers and I sauteed the mushrooms on the stove with salt and pepper and a little bit of garlic powder. So that's it. Super fast, super easy, super delicious, and I think pretty healthy. Without the apple, this will be totally low carb because this is almond flour and just a little bit of arrowroot, so totally would fit into a keto. So if you want to do a lower carb fruit like a berry, then you could stay in a totally low carb setting if that's what you're after. All right, see you back here tomorrow night. Okay, let's see, what have we had this week? I'm not even going to, we had the smothered pork chops with mashed potatoes and I think squash. And then, what did we have on Tuesday? I can't remember. Tuesday we had pizza. I had made that homemade pizza. Last night we had fried squash and mushroom Swiss burgers, no buns. And tonight I don't know, this was just my lack of using my brain when I was planning, but we're having Big Mac salad tonight, which is another way of like burger in a bowl kind of thing, but with a fun sauce, and everything is better with sauce. So sing the song with me, everybody, right? 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Okay, so we don't have the sesame seed bun. You know that McDonald's hamburgers has those, everything except I think the quarter pounder. That one had like regular onions. The rest have those, like, I don't even know if they're real onions. Those little teeny tiny onion nugget things. You know exactly what I mean, right? Well, I think that's special and unique to McDonald's, but they're so good, right? But we're not super big on raw onions, so I just minced up pretty finely a little bit of a sweet Vidalia onion, just a teeny bit of it, maybe a quarter of a cup. And I'm just going to cook that with my hamburger because my husband and I will enjoy that, but we would not so much enjoy the raw onion. So just a little salt and pepper in there. You saw me, or we're going to insert it here. I chopped up my lettuce. This is romaine. I love occasionally a iceberg lettuce, but it's really hard for me anyway to find organic iceberg. So this is an organic romaine, some cherry tomatoes. I got my first garden tomato today, this pretty yellow one. I'm going to let him go for just a day in the windowsill. But no squirrel or bird had taken a bite out yet, so I went ahead and picked it this morning. So we got our beef with our onions, 2 all beef patties, the special sauce. We'll insert the video of that. It's like 1,000 Island. So I had mayonnaise, which was just an avocado oil mayonnaise that I have been buying at Costco, Chosen Foods, but I've shown you how to make that before on my channel. Mayonnaise, ketchup, a little bit of Dijon mustard, maple syrup, a little dash of salt and pepper, and then relish. So I used my zucchini relish, which again I have a video how to make that. You can use just a sweet pickle relish. So that's our special sauce. Lettuce. I'll get out cheese in a minute. I have some American cheese. You use any cheese you want, or totally don't use the cheese. It's totally fine. Pickles, which this is the size my cucumber should be. I found him this morning. This is one who was hiding under the giant leaves of the zucchini. And my kids love pickles, store-bought pickles. And so whenever we buy them, or they get gifted a jar by their grandparents, I'm telling you, they eat it faster than candy. So the store pickles were all gone, but I took these cucumbers from the garden and just made some quick pickles with water, vinegar, salt, pepper, and you want a little sugar, so I used maple syrup. Not as good as a good old Vlasic from the grocery store, but it gives that pickly essence with the crunch, the cucumber, and the vinegar, a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of sweet. So I'm just going to brown that meat. So we'll have our hamburger bowls, and then leftover squash from the other night. I had some sauteed squash, and then I have my I did it in the air fryer, squash. And that is, I just put it on a tray, the leftover, and it's in the oven heating up because my oven was already on for cookies. So that's what we're going to have. So I'll show it to you when it's all done. You know what? These leftover squash, I just heated them up. Just kind of mix them in with the beef. This is the way we do stuff all the time. Lots of ground beef, turkey, pork, chicken, you name it, with just a bunch of vegetables mixed in and whatever kind of spices we have on hand or in the mood for. But why have those on the side? Just mix them right on in there. Then it's easier for leftovers too. It's less things for my husband to have to heat up. So with our hamburger with the onion, I'm going to throw in that leftover squash. So I put on the bottom the lettuce and pickles. Some cheese real fast. Maybe a teeny bit more just because it's going to be indulgent. Melt, melt, melt. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickled onions, no sesame seed bun. So let's see, I think I'll put tomatoes on top. My husband doesn't love these, so we'll just give him a couple, and I'll have a lot. Oh, he can have a couple more. I like a teeny bit of salt on the tomatoes. And then here's our special sauce. Let's see if I can do this artfully. Probably not. I'm not super great at that. You could make this more like burger and fries and serve it on a bed of like roasted potatoes, homemade French fries, something like that. Or like other French fries that you could fry up in your air fryer and kind of build it up like that. However you wanted to build that, but we're calling it a Big Mac salad. It could just be a Big Mac bowl, and you could put rice on the bottom, or whatever you felt like having. Our oven fried squash that were left over, usually I would heat those up in the skillet, but as I told you, my oven was hot already. I just put them in the oven, and they heat up pretty well. So then we have our other veggies all in our bowl already. Okay, so there's supper day number 4. Come back tomorrow. I just changed my plan, so I might change it again. It's anybody's guess what we're going to have for dinner tomorrow night. All right, see you tomorrow. Hey, everybody. Okay, what we eat in a week, day 5. It's Friday. I still don't have kids at home for dinner, which means I had to pivot a little bit because I planned something with them in mind. So I thought, what can I make for just my husband and I, which gives me a little more freedom because he's not picky. Thank you for not being picky. And so I could experiment a little bit. So, not the last time I was at Costco, but sometime in 2022, I was there. They had frozen wild-caught ahi tuna steaks. These, like, delicious, huge ahi tuna steaks. And I've cooked them one time for he and I, and they were really good. I didn't cook it exactly right, but they were still really good. And then I was perusing our state magazine for North Carolina. That whole issue was focused on coastal towns and so beach food and that kind of stuff. And there was this one page that had 2 recipes that intrigued me. One is fresh tuna salad, so tuna salad made with fresh tuna, which means just this, not canned. It could have been fresh or it could have been frozen. And then the other, deviled crab fritters with spicy tartar sauce. I love anything fried. If I could eat fried food every day, I would. As it is, I hardly ever do it. But I thought, well, I'll just make the tuna salad, and then I'll make these deviled crab fritters with tuna. We'll see how that turns out. So I'm kind of experimenting a little bit, but this is my inspiration. So hopefully one fast one. The tuna salad will just be a typical tuna salad where we make our dressing out of mayo, which in this case I have this Chosen Foods avocado oil mayo, again from Costco. We're going to put some salt, some pepper, some Old Bay. This recipe calls for Creole seasoning, which when I see Creole seasoning, I would usually use Cajun seasoning, which I have a great Cajun seasoning recipe that I think is on the website. If not, I'll get it up there soon. But I'm out of it because we love it. I put it on just about everything. So I'll just use a little Old Bay. I'm looking at the wrong one. Celery, dill pickle juice, which I thought was a little bit different. So let's mix that up and we'll get this one going first. This is one of those, just dump some things in and taste it and see how it tastes to you and then adjust. It calls for dill pickle juice, of which I have, I have none, but I have a little bit of my homemade from last night's dinner, those little quick pickles. And then I cooked one tuna steak pretty well done, and I left the other one fairly rare, which the done one being for the tuna salad. The recipe says just to break it up with your fork, but I'm just trying to make my life easy since I have the cutting board and the knife out. Those tuna steaks were huge. When I made them before, I cooked one for each of us, and it was just way too much, and I love fresh tuna, but we couldn't eat it all. So if you find those tuna steaks at your Costco, definitely give them a try. They were a good value and good quality. A half of one per person is really plenty. Tuna salad, I think, is one of those things, like a lot of salads, macaroni salad, potato salad, that kind of gets better as it sits. So I wanted to get this going early and in the fridge so it can be chilling out and getting better. It doesn't often work out like this, that I kind of score right off the bat, but that's really, really delicious. It was probably half a cup of mayo, 1 stalk of celery, just a little shake of the Old Bay, salt and pepper, squeeze of lemon, a squeeze of this homemade pickle juice. That was it, and that's really good. So that's going in the fridge. All right, now we have the Big Daddy with lots and lots and lots of stuff. All the rest of this stuff. So kind of categorize it out. We've got the dry, which, so this fritter recipe is calling for, in terms of the dry ingredients, self-rising cornmeal, flour, and sugar. So I don't do super well with corn. I try to limit it as much as I can. So in lieu of the corn, I'm going to use some ground flaxseed. I have my King Arthur gluten-free all-purpose flour and almond flour. There's a little bit of baking soda. There's a little bit of baking powder. Sweetness, I just have some powdered stevia. So that's going to be my dry. And I'm going to get all my wet stuff and then just add in enough dry to make it the texture that I need for fritters. Now, a fritter is fried. I'm not going to fry because I don't want to, because it's just messy. And I think like an oven frying is really good. I don't know if I can use my air fryer because of the holes. It'll just kind of sink down in. So I'll probably end up doing like an oven fry, but we'll see. I'm going to start with all my chunky stuff, and then I'll add some dry, and then I'll add the liquid. So here's my tuna. We'll start with that. That's the easy part. I cooked it. This is medium rare to me. Actually, I want to taste it. I cooked it maybe an hour ago, and it's been in the fridge. But I thought for this application, it's going to get cooked more in the fritter. And it's actually, because it's frozen, it would be safe to eat it raw anyway. It'll be more tender, and I think it has a better flavor when it's raw. So anyway, didn't cook that all the way. Now, a fritter is generally some kind of flour, some egg, some kind of milk, and then whatever. You can do chicken fritters, you can do vegetable fritters, you can do any kind of fritters under the sun. A hush puppy is essentially a fritter. So you can add whatever you want. I'm going to add in this little bit of celery because it's here. This recipe calls for green onion, and I'm not going to go pick chives. I'm just going to use a teeny bit of this Vidalia onion, which I know from last night's dinner, which was the Big Mac burger bowls, which were a big hit. My husband really enjoyed it. I did too. These onions are strong, so I'm just going to do a little bit, and I'm going to mince it pretty finely. 1 little slice of onion. Actually a bad spot here. And then a little bell pepper, which I had all the colors, but I chose orange to be pretty. So again, just trying to dice these up real finely, same size as everything else. That's the only tricky thing about a recipe like this is the seasoning. Do you think I'm not going to know what the seasoning is, if the seasoning is good until they're cooked? You just have to cook a little piece. Just fry up a little piece in your pan. So they included 2 large eggs. Well, I have these egg yolks because I made my macarons again. So I'm going to go with just, I have all these yolks. I'm going to add in 2 yolks. We need to add in some dry ingredients, and then we'll end up with the liquid. So fritter you want to get kind of light and fluffy, which is why we have leavening, and their recipe uses beer and buttermilk. But we don't do beer because of the gluten. I know there's gluten-free beer, but we're still not doing that. So I have some Sierra Mist, which is like a Sprite 7-Up, so low flavor, but it'll have that carbonation. Usually I have some tonic water, or what's it just called when it's just like fizzy water without flavoring, but I don't have any. And then they also call for buttermilk for their other liquids. So I'm going to use some almond milk with lemon juice in it, and that will sub for the buttermilk, no problem. I just had a stroke of genius. I just put my skillet on the stove with a little bit of avocado oil in it. I remembered when I make my hush puppies, I like fry them in a skillet. I'm not deep frying, but I'm, just like you would brown something in your skillet, you add a little bit of fat or a little bit of oil. I just put a little bit of oil in there, and I'm thinking I can drop my fritters in, and that will kind of sear the outside and give that sort of crispy fried like essence, but then finish them in the oven by baking. So I did 1/4 cup of each of those flours. I'm thinking I want a little bit more. I think I want to do 1/2 cup of the all-purpose. Almond flour will burn, so I don't want any more of the almond flour. Buttermilk is just acidic milk. So I often will do a sub for buttermilk or sour cream by adding some lemon juice to either milk or like coconut milk. So not having, gosh, I'm sorry, I'm very scattered. Not having buttermilk is not an issue. I just made my own. You could use any kind of milk, but I prefer to be dairy-free if possible. So I have the almond milk, so I'm going to use that instead of cow's milk. And you just want, this to hold together, not too thick, not too loose. It's not a pancake batter. Kind of more like a crab cake. Can you see this? So I've got my skillet heating up, and I'm going to drop a little scoop in, and then we'll be able to taste it for seasoning and everything. I'm really excited about this. Are you? I think it's going to be good. I'm going to go ahead. I know I don't want any more of this. I can close this up. All right, so we're going to have our tuna salad. Maybe we'll have some crackers with that. Yeah, it's just sealed. And then I have this cantaloupe back here. What I'm trying to avoid is this ending up tasting like tuna salad, which it might because it's tuna, not crab, but I don't want it to taste like tuna salad. Okay, so I flattened these out so they would cook faster. If you wanted a fritter, you wouldn't really do that. Okay, so what this is, so we have this restaurant at My Beach in North Carolina, and they make something called a shrimp burger. You may have heard of that before. It's not unique to this restaurant, although I think their version is unique. And what's better than the shrimp burger is the shrimp burger sauce. So I always get salad with a piece of tuna cooked raw, which means they just basically sear it and then that's it. And then I ask for the shrimp burger sauce for my dressing. And it's a remoulade. They'll call it remoulade. And I saw them making it one time, and I saw the blender full of celery leaves. And I was like, oh, I would have never guessed. Like, it has chunks in it. It has a texture to it. It's not just smooth like mayonnaise or ketchup or something. But I would have never guessed that it had blended up celery in it. So after I saw that, I was like extra determined to try to make it. And so it's not perfect. It's not exactly like theirs, but it has a similar flavor profile. So I thought that would be good with these. It's actually super good like it is. I hate to mess with the consistency, and I think it's just right. Not the pickle juice, but my pickled jalapenos. But you can buy pickled jalapenos in the jar at the grocery store. But you can also make them at home. And this is all I have left, and I'm growing jalapenos this year. So when they come in my garden, I'll make them, and I'll show you how to make them. You can can them if you want, but you don't have to. But it's just that sort of a little bit tangy, pickly flavor. I think just a teaspoon of that, and these will be excellent. And like I said, I don't want to add too much liquid, but they just need a teeny bit more of sharp flavor. Maybe 2 teaspoons. But they're actually super good as is. Especially with this sauce. If you have some kind of sauce, like this recipe calls for serving them with a spicy tartar sauce, mayonnaise, hot pickles, lemon juice, garlic, hot sauce, and parsley, which I'm not making tartar sauce because I have this already. I think this will be just the thing. Okay. So I'll show you this whole dinner together when it's all done. Just while I'm waiting for my oil to heat up, you know, I told you I had COVID, and this cough is lingering. And a friend of mine, when I was actually really still very, very sick, brought me some of this tea, which I had never heard of. It's mullein leaf tea, and I can link to this exact one. I'm still drinking the tea bags that she brought me. But I think they're the same. Yeah, they look and smell just like this. Like I said, I had never heard of it before, but it is an herb that is touted for its ability to help you clear up, you know, the fluid in your lungs, like an expectorant. And it tastes good. When I first started drinking it, I had completely lost my taste and smell, so I couldn't taste it. I actually hate the taste of honey. Please don't hate me if you love honey. That's totally fine. My husband loves honey, but I just cannot stand the taste of it. But I know it's actually really good for you if you have a sore throat or a cough. So I would put some honey in a cup of this tea, and it's just herbal, so it's caffeine free. But it really has helped with the coughing, and my coughing is just increasing. In the evenings. Of course, I'm talking to you, and that makes it worse. So I'm actually fixing us each a cup of tea to have with her dinner tonight. So I thought I'd show this to you. So I turned my oven on 425. There's just enough avocado oil in the bottom here to kind of coat the bottom of my pan. And I'm going to start scooping these in. I know it's not hot yet. Almost like a little tuna fritter meatball is what we got going on right here. You could take the time and make them all super round, but it's really not necessary. But I do want to get that sort of essence of fritter, so I'm going to try to keep them round. The goal here is just a little crisp on the outside to get that kind of fried essence, and then get them in the oven to bake the rest of the way through, which will not take long. I'm trying to squeeze them all in this one skillet. So I'm putting them a little closer together than they really should be, but it's just going to be okay. Because it's so hot right here in the center of my skillet, these are cooking super fast. So I'm gonna just like swap them out. Okay, dinner day 5, we have tuna 2 ways. The tuna fritters, which were modeled after the deviled crab fritters, with my remoulade sauce, fresh tuna made into tuna salad. We have some of these Simple Mills avocado oil crackers and cantaloupe. All of this came from 2 tuna steaks. Large tuna steaks, but a standard size tuna steak. So this would feed my family of 4, 1 tuna steak. Considering that the kids don't love tuna salad, they would eat enough of this to get the protein fulfillment requirement. That would probably serve 4 of us too, with plenty of sides. So those tuna steaks really are dense and they go a long way. Okay, I've got one more dinner for you tomorrow. Come back for that. Have a great night, everybody. Hope your dinner is delicious. Okay, what we eat in a week. Final day, super simple. We're going to have chicken fajitas in the air fryer, which this is just so fast and so easy. And you could do beef. For chicken, I definitely recommend chicken breasts because you want them to be quick cooking. Chicken thighs really need a little bit longer. You're trying to cut things into pretty thin strips. Okay, all you need is a little oil. This is avocado oil, maybe 2 tablespoons, and the seasoning of your choice. This one is Frontier Co-op Mexican Fiesta blend. This is from Whole Foods, and it's a non-GMO, blah, blah, blah. It's just a bunch of peppers, cumin, garlic, cilantro, lemon peel. There's no salt in this one, so I'm just going to add a bunch of the seasoning. I really like Siete Foods. I've talked about their tortilla chips and tortillas, which we're going to use their tortillas. And they have the little packets of seasoning mixes like the typical taco ones you've seen in the grocery store forever. They make those now, and they're in the same place, and I've found them in different states and all different types of grocery stores. I've seen them. They have a taco seasoning. They have a fajita seasoning. Honestly, I don't really know what the difference is. And they're really good. So if you happen to see those and want to give them a try, and they're going to be non-GMO and organic spices and, of course, gluten-free, all that kind of stuff. Some of those seasoning packets are not gluten-free, so definitely be careful with that. So just a little oil, put in your seasoning. You can make your own seasoning. You can just put in garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, oregano, paprika, maybe some smoked paprika, that sort of thing, chili, cayenne, whatever, level of heat that you enjoy. That's really all. And then we'll put it in there, toss it around a couple times, and then get out all the toppings. To make this fajita dinner just a little bit extra special, heat up your tortillas. You can either place them in a hot skillet with no oil or anything, or put them right over an open flame if you have a gas stove. Woohoo, look how good this looks. We have a little bit of char, that's why we're doing it in here, to get that little bit of char that's very fajita-esque. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, so when we go to those, I call them the cheap Mexican restaurant, and get fajitas, it's almost always what we get. For our family of 4, we get 2 orders of, they call them ultimate fajitas, and it's steak, chicken, and chorizo, peppers and onions, cheese. And then on the side, they give you flour tortillas. So we say no flour tortillas, rice and beans, no beans. So we just get the rice. So we get all that meat and vegetable stuff. And on the side, we get rice, lettuce, tomato. I think there's a little scoop of sour cream, guacamole, and maybe a little more cheese on that plate. And we just like eat that. So we're not used to eating the tortillas, but I had these siete almond flour tortillas, which are super good. And you saw me, I just heated them up on the open flame of my gas grill, which you could totally do it in a skillet. You could just put them on a cookie sheet in the oven. You wouldn't have to heat them up. It's totally fine, but I like them heated up a little bit. So the trick with any kind of wrap, as I know you know, right? Say it with me. Don't overfill it. It's so tempting to put so much on there. So I'll usually do like 1 wrap just for the fun of having a wrap. And then I'll just eat more stuff on my plate. I don't want that salsa. Sometimes salsa gives me heartburn. I don't want that one. But I have my first tomato out of the garden, so I'm going to put my tomato on the side. I'm just going to have a little bit of this. It's not guacamole. It's this avocado mash that comes from Costco. It's just organic avocados, lime, salt and pepper. So it doesn't have the cilantro and stuff of guacamole, but, it's the avocado. Should I taste it? So yummy. So yummy. A little bit spicy. So, I hope you enjoyed this What We Eat in a Week video. I don't think I've ever done one in like 5 years of YouTube. So, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some ideas for some maybe quick and simple meals. This is very much that. Or a little bit fancy, like the smothered pork chops we had earlier in the week. Or maybe you just enjoyed hanging out with me in the kitchen this week. And if that is the case, I enjoyed that too. Thank you for joining me. If you have not subscribed, I invite you to do that. That would be super helpful. I would love it if you'd leave me a comment. Let me know what kind of content you'd like to see. Do you like some of the like day in the life? Do you want to see around my house, around the garden, projects around the house, that kind of stuff? You just want me to stay in the kitchen? Let me know what you'd like to see. And again, thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time.